Hello everyone, it's Michelle from the Stamp Doctor, and it is February 10th, 2020, and I wanted to show you a new release of dies and some projects that I created with them. It's just going to be a quick run through so you can see what's new. This was created with another new product that isn't newly released now, but I'm going to cover it in here, and I also used some hearts from one of my older sets, which isn't too old. But I'll go ahead and get started here. We'll go ahead and leave that there for just a second, and I'll just go ahead and show you the two dies I did use from a previous release are the Heart Medley dies and the Just for Luck dies, and this has the confetti maker die in it included so that you can have little ones for shaker cards. So Heart Medley, which retails for $15, has 8 dies, and then 9 dies in the Just for Luck, and I didn't put the price on that one, I do apologize. Alright, something new I'm trying to do is make sure I have prices on everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and spread these out and pick them up randomly. To start with, we have some gnomes. Gnome 1, Gnome 2, we have mushrooms, grass, and dirt, and we have a little torch and lantern. And I'll just go ahead and kind of show you a few things with those. Let me just lay them right there. Here we have the gnome number 1. Now he has 8 dies, but he has more than that in parts. So the number of dies doesn't mean the number of parts, okay? So this is a little gnome. Here's where I used the Heart Medley dies. This is where I used another product to make this little box. But that's the little gnome number 1, okay? And then here is little gnome number 2. And again, he says 6 dies. But what you'll find is I combine noses and hands and feet and things like that together. So it's actually just so you know the number of dies that come in a package. By the way, gnome number 1, he has 2 hats sets. He has the hats going with the point one side and then the hats with the point going the opposite way. And he is $8. Alright, so gnome number 2. And then we have the mushrooms, grass, and dirt. And this will show you in relation to the gnome just how big he is in comparison to those, and that set is $5, and you do get 10 different little dies in there. I did also put holes in the actual die of the mushroom itself, so when you cut it you can put an extra layer of paper underneath and it will impress the bumps upward, and then I just used a white gel pen on this sample. These aren't super great shaded or anything, I apologize, I just quickie stuff to show you. The lantern and torch dies, they're $1.50, and you're going to get the different little flames to stick on the wooden handle there. And just to show you here is the gnome if he were holding that, and then here is kind of the torch in relation to him. So as he's marching along through the forest, he can light his way one way or another. Alright, and then I'll show you a couple of things I did with some of the gnomes. I haven't had a chance to actually make a lot of projects. As you know, I kind of do all this myself from design and packaging and ship. But I use the balloon dies here, and then I use those Just for Luck dies here. Now you'll notice, thank you Crystal for pointing this out in my picture I sent you, his hand here looks kind of like his fingers are closed, and then here his hand is open. This is the base of the die that you put all of the things onto, and I'm not sure why my company changed it when I made it, but this looks like his hand is closed and gripping something, and so when you do the base you just color that part of the base tan and then put his shirt over top of it, and it's going to have that hand sticking out. Or if you want to, you can cut away that hand and attach the hand in the die set behind, and that gives you just 2 different looks. So thank you Crystal, I knew it was different, but I didn't really pay that much attention to it, so thanks for always getting my details. We'll set this aside here. Alright, then I'm going to jump really quickly out of gnomes over to what I think is a fun new die set. And this is the number 6 center step. What number 6 means is that it creates a card that fits a personal envelope. And these I just got at the Dollar Tree. They are security envelopes. I'm not going to make a die to make your own envelope. I just, if I wanted to pretty this up, I probably would just measure and cut a layer of paper, not cardstock, but I would put paper on it, make sure it's glued down real well, and then I might mail it or give it that way. But this is the number 6. Center step, number 6 referring to a number 6 envelope. That way when you go to the store you just can remember that, and that's what kind of envelopes you can get. Alright, so in this set you're going to get everything you need to create it. You have all of the inside, outside layers and the square layers that fit on the front. So these do cut and stitch. If I wanted to add a 1/16 edge layer, because these are 1/8 of an inch away, I would use my Perfect Layers rulers to maybe add a straight cut with the stitch layer over top. And so you have the layer that fits the outside, and it does give you these pieces. And then that layer also fits the inside, but it's upside down. So I deliberately did this with the Hugs and Kisses paper so that it would be kind of a reminder to you when you're cutting, you place the die with the bar at the bottom for your outside layer. But you have to rotate the die and put the bar at the top for your inside layer if you have a directional print. Otherwise, it's not going to match. Then this layer exclusively fits in here. However, it could be used, don't mind my little accidental inking, it could be used on the back if you wanted to print something on the computer, like you sell cards and you want to put a website and a logo and all that. You could center this die over the top of it, cut it out, layer it really beautifully on the back of your card, and of course it could hide something if you do something like that. So you're going to get all of those layers in here. That die is $35 for the entire set. Now this will not fit a Cuttlebug. I do need to stress this is my first die that absolutely is not going to go through a Cuttlebug because it is 6 inches wide. You cut your paper 6 by 7. The die is the exact size that you lay over top. It doesn't do anything to the outside of the paper but cuts and scores on the inside. You could alter this to make different size cards if you have the full-size Big Shot that does a full-size sheet of paper, but you're not going to be able to get this through your Cuttlebug, just so you do know. So the inside layers, just really quickly, I didn't stick this together because I wanted to show you mirror paper. I don't know why I'm kind of stuck on that right now, probably because just the holiday, but the mirror paper can be a little bit more expensive and you don't want to waste it, or you may only have like one sheet of a 6x6 print in a package that you want to use. So what I do is I nest the dies, and you can see they're uneven. I didn't tape them or anything, I just used the magnetic mat to hold them in place. So I cut every other die starting with the largest one in gold, and then I cut every other die starting with the largest one in the red. The reason that it's okay for you to have holes is because of this. So you are going to have this one over that one. Now that actually makes a really cute frame. By the way, you can mix and match with some frames. I would tape them to be a little bit more even. But every one that you put down is simply going to cover the hole behind. They're a little slickery. I apologize here for not keeping them straight, but I didn't want to tape them. I wanted to show you how I conserve paper. So as you can see, the last two are going to completely cover that hole. And now I was able to use just the smallest amount of gold and the smallest amount of red. And if you are selling or mass producing, or you're just really thrifty with paper, that's going to give you an added bonus for that. And then these dies are going to fit in here this way. They do overlap the layer a little bit, so you may want to put any layer inside that way. And then they can go top up or sideways on the front of the card. So everything in one complete kit for $35 that you can do like this in a number 6 envelope. So that is the number 6 center step card die and layers. All right, so let's move right along. Let me show you some treat toppers. All right, so these are new. I already have the 2-inch treat bags. They are zipper, seal, and they are food safe. They do have a hang tab hole on the zip bag itself, so depending on what kind of things you're giving or doing, you may want to decorate them entirely different and utilize that hang hole to hang up to sell. Okay, so here I used treat topper number 2, and I used treat topper number 1. It's right there in front of my face. All right, and they're on here backwards because of the way they stuck up. So in these dies, you're going to get 2 dies. You're going to get one that is the topper, and it creases in half, and it has a layer. It does cut and stitch, and it is $5, and that's the one I used here. And then treat topper number 2, also 2 dies, cuts a scalloped edge, does stitching, does the score to fold it, also includes a layer. It is also $5. And then here I combined Love Ya on that one, and I used the XO out of the Kisses and Hugs. So Love Ya is 2 dies, and it sells for $2. And XO and Kisses die, there's actually 5 dies in there because you get the little tabby for your Kisses, and then I used the XO twice on here. Then the hearts again came out of the Heart Medley set. I really love these. They're so much fun, and especially with this mirror paper. And I keep all of my little teeny tiny scraps of mirror paper in a Ziploc bag. I do sell it in the Ziploc bag for storage purposes, but I keep them because you never know when you can get just a little tiny element, a little heart, something out of it instead of butchering up a whole new chunk of it. And then what I did here, the sixlets, a lot of people ask for, they want candy that's individually wrapped so they can sell at craft fairs. So the sixlets, they're $1 a bag at the Dollar Tree. And to make them fit in here, what I did is I just tucked under, I think you can see, I just squeezed the candy all to one end, folded the flat back, and then slipped them into the bag so that they would all be shorter in there and I wouldn't have that ugly flappy thing sticking up. So those are the treat toppers. And I made another treat topper because I've had this idea for 100 years, and I didn't pull the die set that I used, the Doctor's Bag Feel Better set, but I used the topper number 2 on the top here in the black glossy or mirror and the silver, and then I did the Feel Better, which is 2 dies here, which are $2. And then I used the Doctor Bag, the RX. I stuck the individually wrapped candies, which are, I got the assorted pack so I could have multiple colors because I don't really eat candy and I don't make stuff to sell. But these are $1 at the Dollar Tree. It makes a cute little gift. I think especially for elderly people, they really like hard candy, so you could use like Starlight Mints in here, all different things. But the RX is stuck to the outside of the bag. So once I had the candies positioned in there nice and firmly in the bag, then I just stuck these down right on top of them so that they would stay in place and they wouldn't rotate and turn, and I just thought it would make a better presentation. Real quick, I wanted to show you something about sticking down these little elements. Oh, and I have another trick also in here to show you. So in my Feel Better, I'll show you this one in just a jiffy, but let me pull out this stuff. So you have these little word dies, and I do have my Super Tack glue, which you can put on the back of paper and make little things sticky, but that's a whole nother story. But if you don't have that, generally what we do have is we have some double stick tape. And what I do is I'm going to take a scrap of my paper here, and you can see I just put a couple of strips of the white liner, Score Pal tape, whatever tape you have, right? And I just put that on there, leave the film on the back of it, the protective film, and then I cut my dies out. And what happens is I'm going to end up, and you'll see these, where did they go? I thought I had some. I think it's a different saying, but I forgot to put sticky on the back, so now I'm going to have to put glue on the back of the little tiny Feel Better words to get them to stick down. So that's how I did the Feel Better and the RX, is by putting the adhesive on the back of the paper, and then you can just take your pokey tool and it just lifts really easy. In fact, a lot of the times the release paper comes right off as I'm taking the die out of the thicker cardstock. But this is going to work with printed paper, it's going to work with the foil papers. Now this, let me show you the For You because it'll make a little bit more sense. Oh, there's the For You that I cut and I didn't put any adhesive on it, so it's in there waiting to get used the next time I get out the glue. Okay, so For You has a shadow, okay? And sometimes, you know, it's not easy, or they didn't make a shadow, or maybe the shadow is bigger than I wanted it to be, or whatever. So I actually created a raised shadow, not cut out, but raised here, and I'll show you how I did it. I took my Feel Better dies, and of course I would probably do this on a tag or a more finished piece. This was just on a scrap. So we have the paper. We're going to go from the back side of our cardstock or our paper, whatever side we want showing, we need to have face down. And then we want the die to not cut this paper. We want it to be face up. So we're using the outline of the die, and I really do try to get mine positioned as perfectly as possible for just this kind of purpose. You could put another piece of paper on here if you wanted, but you're going to want fun foam or something squishy down below here, and then put a piece of paper on, or these will cut into your top plate, so you may want to, you know, keep them from embedding. Sometimes it'll do that. Just run it back and forth a couple of times, and what happens is the perimeter of the die is going to raise in the paper. Okay, then you would take your paper with your sticky on the back, and you would cut your pieces out of it, and then they are going to adhere on here. And I have a really cool, really neat raised shadow. I've been doing this for some time. I hadn't thought to really do anything about it because I haven't been doing videos, as you well know. Please don't yell at me for not having very many videos. I'll try to get better. Alright, so I keep my little dies in the package. I do put them in a Ziploc bag, and that's how I sell them to you, is all bagged up if they will fit into a bag that will fit into the package. And then what I do to store extra pieces, like you change your mind, I might want something, you know, oh, that color didn't work, I still keep those pieces in here, just so that I can save them. So we have, For You, we have Feel Better, which is over here. Okay, so hopefully that's a little trick that you can utilize with whatever kind of papers you're using for those little fine word dies. All right, we've done this guy, the Love Ya. We've looked at this. All right, I'm going to jump over here in treat stuff, and I'm going to show you the nugget wrapper dies. I'm going to do an upcoming video on the mini coffee cover box. That's the reason I went ahead and made the nugget wrappers at this time instead of the Hershey miniature wrappers. So you're going to get 4 dies in this set. It sells for $7. You get a straight cut, you get a straight cut with stitches, you get a scalloped and a scalloped with stitches. Now these are out of the mirrored cardstock. And here you can see I have a Hershey's Kiss on a nugget, okay? And the nugget, what I did is the Kiss, what I did is I deliberately ran this face down over my plates to make it look more roughed up and more scrapey. Like the Hershey's Kisses wrappers have crinkles in them. They're not completely smooth, so I kind of made that look a little bit more funky. Now if you're going to use a heavier cardstock, you want to break the weave of it. So you're going to have trouble with keeping it around the Hershey's nugget if you don't break the weave of it, and then when you come around, you can't use tape. See how this just wants to spring right back open? You do need to use a wet glue. I use Glossy Accents, and then just wrap it around the nugget and then hold it in place for a second so that it gets a seal. But you do want to have something to hold the thicker papers on rounder curved objects. I'll just toss those over here. So 4 different nugget wrappers. I only had 1 nugget available in the stash, and it's probably white inside there from getting icky, being old. Okay, these are Tiny Tags 1 and Tiny Tags 2. There's 4 in the set. Straight cut, straight cut, straight cut with stitch, straight cut with stitch. You have round top, you have regular tag top. They're $3 a set. And in here, I'll show you how they work together. I cut 1 set out of red and 1 set out of silver, so you can see that the straight cut small fits on the stitched large, and here I have the straight cut large, and I have the little stitchy on top of it, but you can see that your stitch still shows on this one when you put the solid one over top of it. And these are made if you have little stamps or you want to print little words. I have gone ahead and left the center of the tag open. It's another step in creation, but I like being able to do things like this with words, so I can tape this over top of a printed word or over top of my stamped word, and I can get exactly that centered word that I want there. So those are Tiny Tags 1 and 2. Let me put these in here, and we'll just set that aside. I'm going to hop back to trees and the gnomes and clouds. So here are the clouds, and here are the trees. I have no fingernails, I can't pick things up off the surface of the paper here. And then I'm just going to pull out this little center step so you can see the number 6 center step. So, tree dies, there are 3 different trees, and they are $7. And then the clouds, there are 4 clouds, and they are also $7. Okay, so if we had Whoops, I don't know if I had that in the visual field there, but let's just pretend that these are trees here on a card, and then our clouds, this is the reference of size on what they would look like. We hopefully don't have that many clouds going on here. And this is a gnome. So, and he's red on red, and I apologize, he probably doesn't stand out. But this just gives you kind of a reference. Gnome guy would definitely be in front of the trees would be in the back, or else they're going to be, you know, just really small baby trees. But if you wanted to create a landscaping type card, that's your size ratio kind of on what they would look like. I did add images. If you've already looked at the new release, if you click each individual die under the category, I did add size images to each and every one of the new releases except for the center step, so that you can kind of gauge how big they are. We have bunnies number 1 and bunnies number 2, so we have, you know, hunched down with his ears kind of like tuning in like rabbit ears, haha. And then we have the bunny with them up. These guys are little. They are like an inch and a quarter, inch and a half. They're very tiny. I think they would go well in a little woodland scene. Your trees would be far away and your little bunnies would be up close. So that's the little bunnies. I have chocolate bunnies from last year's Easter release, but I wanted some more realistic little bunny silhouettes, so I added those. Okay, and then these are gift tags and gift card tab dies. This one is going to hold your card lengthwise. This one is going to hold your card top and bottom of it. And then these are 4 individual little tabs. And as soon as I get caught up on the new orders, I'm going to make a template that you can print out that has little squares on it. And you would just tape these 4 little dies exactly to whichever of the squares you want, and then run it through on top of your paper, and it's going to perfectly position these. But you might want to angle it and do a top corner and a bottom corner to attach a gift card. So it all depends on what you're using and what you're wanting to do. So I try to make them as versatile as possible. These are $5, and there are 6 different little dies in there to do gift cards. Okay, then I'm going to tell you just here at the end real quickly about my scoring board. Some of you might have seen the feature that Lisa did about the tag topper tree, and she made a cute little tag topper tree, and that is how I made this little gnome tree that has the Sixlets candy in there, and it's how I made this larger one. This has a full-size Hershey's candy bar inside it. The scoring tool, what's unique, I struggled about whether or not to make this, but what makes this one more unique is that its size. It's very small for portability, and I believe it's like 7.5 by 9. I think that's the correct dimensions. But what was really important to me and why I created it is this zero center. All of the lines are 1/8 of an inch apart, and the zero centering. So if you were to make a standard size card, you would go ahead and just lay your whole piece of cardstock on here and score it at 0, and that's going to be the center. If you were making a gatefold card, you'd put your whole piece of cardstock on here, and you're going to score it at 2 1/8 from the center. You think 2 1/8 that way, 2 1/8 that way, fold both sides in, and that's going to make a gatefold card. But what I really wanted it for was the tag topper treat. So this paper comes with this project inside each scoring tool, and it does not have an actual scoring tool. I use a ball stylus. I don't like, it would have cost a lot to manufacture one of those little scoring tools, and what I don't care for is the little nub at the tip that ends up tearing your paper. So I didn't make that. I opted for you to be able to use your favorite scoring tool, or I use a ball stylus. But this tag topper treat, when you use the tag topper dies, which I did on the 2 different treat containers here, and on the sample that's in the image. So these are the tag toppers, and they only cut the top of the paper. So you can cut your paper any length, place it at the top, and then you get any length tag. But what happens is like let's just say this is 5.5 inches long and you're going to cut the tag on either side of it. What happens is this is no longer 5.5 inches long. I need to find out where the middle is so I can score to either side of it, because I don't want a V bumpy thing in the bottom of my project. I want it to have like a box bottom. So for me it was important to find the center. So that is why here, let's just pretend this is our piece. I can take and I can look and I can see that I'm at the 1/2 inch, I don't care what it is, but it's 1.5 here and then 1.5 here. I know that I'm center. Now I can score 1/8 of an inch either side of 0, or 1/4 of an inch either side of 0. I can score 1 1/4, 1 1/4. But for me, and for thinking about measurements and trying to teach you guys different tutorials, I really don't like putting a paper here and saying, I need you to score you know, this much and this much, like 3 and 3.5, because after we cut our ends, we may not have a 5.5 inch piece. So if you put your die down a little farther from the end and then you score at an arbitrary number, you may not fold it in half and have it meet equally. So that is why I created this scoring tool. It retails for $18. The scallops, just to answer your question, the scallops on the top were just so that it just wasn't flat and plain. And then I like to hang things up above my workspace on hooks. So you can just slide this over top of a hook, hang it up. I intend to write out some project sheets, kind of like this, with pictures to show you how I adapted for a full-size Hershey's bar, and for how I adapted to have this more of like a boxed pleat at the top, and then it has the sixlets, so the sixlets are a little fatter, and how to score your bands, your belly bands that go around it. So I will work on more projects, but in the meantime, if you do order and purchase the A2 Card Maker scoring board, you are going to get this project as a starting point absolutely free in the packaging, so that you have an idea of what to do with it. And more things just than Ghirardelli squares actually fit in here, just so you know. So that, my friends, is what I've been working on. These are tilted backwards. And I'm sorry if I have taken too long or been boring at all. And I hope that you will enjoy making lots of fun new gifts and projects and cards. And thank you for being my patience. And I'm sorry it took so long to make another video, and I will try to get another one done soon. Happy stamping. Have a great day. Thanks.